In this video, we're going to talk about how to try to avoid an immigration interview if you're applying for your green card based on marriage to a US citizen. I do a lot of these cases, and I've been fortunate enough for a lot of my cases to be able to avoid the interview, to have the interview waived. And I'm going to try to explain what I've done to try to increase the chances of that happening. By the way, even if you do all of these things, you might still have an immigration interview. Ultimately, it's up to the interviewer, the immigration officer who receives your file at their desk. When they flip through it, they need to decide, do I still want to talk to this couple, or nah, it's good. It looks like they're a real marriage. Let's just give them a conditional green card and we'll see down the road if they continue to save evidence when it's time to remove the conditions on their green card. And if you don't know what that means, you should watch some of my videos about the 2-year versus the 10-year green card, which is conditional, versus the 10-year permanent green card. One of the things I do to increase the probability of having your interview waived when you're married to a US citizen and applying for your green card is I create a detailed list of evidence that we need to submit during our initial consultation. So during our consultation, I want to know, how did you guys meet? Was it online through a dating app? If so, do you guys still have copies of each other's dating profiles? Are you guys on social media together? We create a list of all the possible evidence. I want to know, when did you guys move in together? Have you met each other's families? Have you been on any trips together? Do you share a car? Have you bought any property together? I go through a whole laundry list of questions to see where can we put together some evidence to support this marriage. And every marriage and relationship is different. I had a situation that was very unique. I had a client who was a US citizen and he was about to undergo chemotherapy. And before he did that, he wanted to freeze a bunch of his sperm so that he and his wife down the road could try to have a family. And so we submitted the paperwork from the sperm bank that says his wife is to be the only beneficiary of that sperm. No one else was allowed to use that sperm or withdraw it other than his wife. It was basically her sperm. So that was very unique evidence that we submitted in that case, and it made the case really slam dunk. And that's a unique thing, like you're not gonna know to submit that. But there are other situations, like sometimes people purchase a house together, but only the US citizen puts their name on the financial documents because the immigrant spouse doesn't have a social security number, or they're afraid, or it's just easier to use US citizen because they actually have a credit history for the mortgage documents and the bank loan and all that stuff. But they wanted to do renovations, and both spouses are CC'd on emails with the renovation company, and there's a long chain back and forth. So we will print out that entire conversation, could be many pages long, and we'll submit it as evidence showing the renovation that they want to make to their house. Another piece of evidence that we like to submit to increase the probability of having your immigration interview waived when you're married to a US citizen and applying for your permanent residence is evidence that you guys have flown on trips together or gone on any trips together. Whether you took a road trip throughout the United States or just to the Jersey Shore for the weekend, if you've ever stayed at an Airbnb or a hotel, if you've ever been on a plane together, we want evidence of that to show that you guys are actually sharing your lives together and living together. An immigration officer would love to see that you guys flew to Florida together, stayed at an Airbnb together, went to Disney World together, went out to restaurants together, and then flew back to New York. Like, that is something that a married couple would do. That is not something you do if you're in a fake marriage trying to create fake evidence for your green card, which is all you really need to prove. You just need to show that you're in a good faith marriage, that you didn't just pay someone $5,000 to be your fake spouse so that you can become a permanent resident. If you're able to demonstrate that you're in a good faith marriage and you otherwise qualify for permanent residence, the case should be pretty easy to win. One question that people ask me goes along the lines of, hey, we actually don't have a joint bank account together because we weren't able to open one because my spouse doesn't have a social security number. Or we never shared our finances together. We only recently started living together, so we don't really have evidence of like a joint lease or joint utilities or much documentation at all. It is still possible to have your interview waived, but the probability is lower. And by the way, you might have all the unique evidence in the world, but if it just doesn't look like you're a couple because maybe you're from different parts of the world and the immigration officer is a little bit bigoted or doesn't really understand how that makes sense to them in their worldview, or you have a massive age difference, or your US citizen spouse previously married 3 other immigrant spouses and got permanent residence for all of his prior spouses, you might have all the evidence in the world, but they are still going to want to talk to you guys just to see if it passes the smell test, to see if this, smells like a real marriage. It might be unavoidable. All you can do is submit all the evidence that's available in your case and hope for the best. Marriage-based green card cases are my favorite. They're my bread and butter. I do them all day long. I have a lot of experience with them, and they're really fun because I get to help this recently married couple start the next leg of their journey inside the United States, and I get to reduce as much stress as possible as they start their new lives together. If you recently married or you're considering getting married in the near future and you want to talk about the immigration journey, call my office, schedule a consultation with me. I'm happy to walk you through every step of the process from start to finish until your spouse has a permanent resident card. If you're new to my channel, subscribe. I put out videos like this on a weekly basis, and I'll see you guys next week for another one.